Chris Jericho wins the Ocho and becomes an 8-time world champion by winning the Ring of Honor World Championship, defeating Claudio Castagnoli on AEW Dynamite Grand Slam last night. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of All Elite Wrestling, especially after last night's AEW Dynamite Grand Slam, which saw not only one, but two World Championship changes. We've already spoken about Jon Moxley becoming the AEW World Champion for the third time in his career, but Chris Jericho won a World Championship he has never won before. Chris Jericho in 2022 is the Ring of Honor World Champion. Who had this on their bingo cards for 2022? I certainly didn't, and let's get into this because it's fantastic. Wednesday night saw All Elite Wrestling's annual Grand Slam edition of Dynamite. The stacked card featured matches for the AEW World, Tag Team, Women's, and All Atlantic Championships, but they were not the only AEW titles, they were the only AEW titles rather on the line, but they weren't the only titles on the line, but the Ring of Honor World Championship was also on the line. After successfully defending the title against names such as Dax Harwood and Takeshita, Claudio Castagnoli geared up to defend his championship against the Wizard Chris Jericho. This time, however, Jericho prevailed and cracked Castagnoli's code. The Jericho Appreciation Society leader opened the match by rejecting the Code of Honor and closed things out by giving Castagnoli a low blow. Jericho was then able to become Le Champion once more. The longtime voice of Ring of Honor broadcast, Ian Riccoboni, was disconsolate on commentary, saying, quote, "A cloud of dishonor has enveloped the Ring of Honor World Championship," Riccoboni said. Now, with this victory, Jericho claims his 8th World Championship of his career, the Ocho, as Jericho keeps saying. Now, it's the first time, of course, Jericho has held a championship since Jon Moxley defeated him for the AEW World Championship all the way back at the Revolution pay-per-view in early 2020. Now, Jericho's victory brings even more gold to the Jericho Appreciation Society. Fellow members Sammy Guevara and Tay Mello hold the AAA World Mixed Tag Team Championships, and Daniel Garcia recently won the Ring of Honor Pure Championship. However, how long he remains as part of the Jericho Appreciation Society, we'll have to wait and see. Now, speaking of the Pure Champion, Garcia was seen reluctantly celebrating with the Jericho Appreciation Society. Of course, this may come as a surprise to some, as over the last few weeks, a rift has seemed to slowly form between Jericho and Garcia. They all seemed well in Jericho's group as they stood tall in New York City on Wednesday night, in Queens rather. I actually really liked this result. I thought the match was good. Jericho, Claudio, great chemistry. They've known each other for years, and it's almost impossible to have these two facing off, given their experience and given their in-ring work, to have a bad match, and they didn't. And you've seen on the channel the last few days, especially yesterday, and since it really was announced last Friday on Rampage, that Jericho was going to be facing Claudio for the Ring of Honor Pure Championship. I felt like this was the direction they were going to go in. And I know some people could say, well, this is a moment where Claudio should have won. It would have been a big star-making moment inside of a stadium, really cement him as the Ring of Honor World Champion. But the more I think about it, and this is the more I was thinking about it leading up to it, it made sense that Jericho won. It makes the most sense that Chris Jericho is the Ring of Honor World Champion. And the reason that I say that is because what is Tony Khan looking to do right now? He's looking to launch Ring of Honor television. We don't know where the Ring of Honor weekly television show is going to sit. We don't know what network it's going to be on, but it sure as hell is a lot easier to shop that product around with Chris Jericho as the world champion as opposed to Claudio Castagnoli. That's no disrespect to Claudio or anything like that, but Tony Khan is probably looking at the past right now. He's looking at, how did we successfully launch AEW television? How did we successfully launch AEW Dynamite? We did it by having Chris Jericho as the world champion. Chris Jericho won the AEW World Championship at All Out at the end of August, beginning of September in 2019, and then they launched Dynamite at the beginning of October, just a few weeks later, about 4 or 5 weeks later. And initially, that first sort of run, the key run of Dynamite to make sure that it succeeded from October 2019 to sort of March 2020, that was all on the back of Chris Jericho. And because of the success of that, AEW got a new television deal. They got an updated and improved television deal that made the company profitable in just a couple of months. Now, the only loss they had was because of the video game, but that was on the back of Chris Jericho. As Chris Jericho has said several times in interviews, whether you like him or not, whether you agree with some of the stuff he says or the stuff he does or not, that was largely on Chris Jericho's back. He was the draw at that period of time. He was the world champion. He was the guy on top. And he completely reinvented himself. He was Le Champion. He had the inner circle. He was trending all over social media with a little bit of bubbly and all that kind of stuff. And I think Tony Khan probably looks at it in a similar vein of, how do I launch Ring of Honor? I'll put the championship on Jericho. I'll do it again. Even in 2022, even at this stage in his career, Chris Jericho still has huge name recognition, huge name value, and he offers a lot. And for a small company like Ring of Honor, yes, it's been around for 20 years, but as a small company that maybe some television networks or some cable networks are unsure about whether they pick it up, do we pick it up or not? Oh, Ring of Honor wrestling, I don't know about that. Chris Jericho's the world champion. We'll give it a shot. We'll give it a shot. We've seen what happens. And not only do they have the name recognition of Jericho, they have the numbers of when he was on top as champion to back it up. Even today, Chris Jericho is still a draw. And I think it's smart. I think it's a smart move, honestly, by Tony Khan. And if there was Chris Jericho as the leader of the Ring of Honor brand, as they possibly go into television deals or television program or pay-per-views, that's interesting, because I don't think anyone really ever thought that could happen. No one thought Chris Jericho would ever be Ring of Honor world champion. Disrespect to Ring of Honor, but it's a little bit beneath him. I think the only thing with ROH that he's done is when they were involved in the Jericho Cruise a few years ago. And I think that maybe he was going to appear, I think, on Supercard of Honor when they had that at Madison Square Garden in 2019. It didn't happen in the end because of, I think, WWE and Vince McMahon involvement, as Jericho puts it. But the point being is that I think it's a smart move. I really, really do. And I'm really interested to see where they go with it. They have to be building to something. They have to be building to a pay-per-view, or they have to be building to a television announcement or something of that nature. So I think it's a smart move and the right move, honestly, by Tony Khan and Ring of Honor. Jericho leading the helm of Ring of Honor, I think that's really, really interesting. I do. And Jericho in that Ring of Honor, in that Ring of Honor universe, is going to be really fascinating as well. Now, again, I might be completely off base and completely wrong, and maybe Tony Khan doesn't have an announcement imminent when it comes to Ring of Honor, or he doesn't have an announcement imminent when it comes to a television deal or the next pay-per-view. I don't know. But to me, putting the championship on Jericho implies that either he's got one close, or he's going to use Jericho as a bargaining chip when he's negotiating or trying to pitch these shows, pitch these deals to the cable networks. And again, to me, that's entirely smart. And now you have a situation, as I mentioned, where two members of the Jericho Appreciation Society hold Ring of Honor championships, and you can kind of maybe move the Jericho Appreciation Society stuff to a Ring of Honor broadcast every single week, and have Jericho and Daniel Garcia, competing for both of those championships, and maybe they have a winner-takes-all match, and Daniel Garcia becomes the Ring of Honor World Champion at a big Ring of Honor event. It just feels to me like the perfect way, as I mentioned, the perfect springboard to really launch into Tony Khan's vision of what Ring of Honor could be. Because Jericho holding the championship gives it immediate credibility. Jericho kept talking about it being a world championship, and in AEW so far, has it been treated as a world championship? Maybe not. Maybe it has lost a little bit of credibility. I don't know. But Jericho holding it gives it instant credibility. And just again, that image of Jericho, I keep saying it, but that image of Jericho being in Ring of Honor to me, because just a couple of weeks ago, let alone a couple of months ago, earlier this year, no one would have seen that coming at all. And I think Jericho in that universe is very exciting and very interesting. So I'm fascinated to see what's planned for that. I'm fascinated to see what Jericho's going to be doing with it going forward. I'm fascinated to see if it means, as I mentioned, the announcement or a launch of a weekly television show or something. It would be disappointing, in all honesty, wouldn't it? It would be disappointing if they just put the championship on Jericho because they just wanted to reward him for all of his hard work he's done this year. And make no mistake, Jericho's had a great year. I'm still on the fence a lot about the Jericho Appreciation Society stuff. I felt like he didn't need a stable again after he just had one, and it was kind of just the next version of the Inner Circle, whatever. But this Ring of Honor stuff could be the next chapter Of Chris Jericho. The guy's always evolving, and the ROH version of Chris Jericho is a side of Chris Jericho that I don't think anyone ever thought we were actually going to see. A Ring of Honor version of Jericho. Ring of Honor is Jericho. That's very exciting. So there you go, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.